Hello, everyone. My name is David Ding. I'm currently an assistant professor in the Department of Supply Chain Management at Radcliffe Business School. In this short video, I'm going to quickly introduce the research findings and future directions for a recent publication with a special issue on delivering effective healthcare at low cost with Journal of Operations Management. It is a collaborative effort with my co-authors, David Payne, Greg Heim, and Victoria Jordan. The title of the publication is Service Mix Market Competition and Cost Efficiency, a longitudinal study of US hospitals. So a quick highlight for the research publication is the two specific questions we're trying to address. One is dealing with operation strategy. We're trying to answer, can hospitals improve cost efficiencies through resource distribution? And the second one is the interface between operations, marketing. We're trying to answer the question of how should hospital balance the internal resources when they're facing market competition. And in the following, I'm going to quickly go over the motivation as well as some of the data information. So I spent over 12 years in Texas, Houston specifically, and before I moved to New Jersey. So I'm quite familiar with the Texas Medical Center. And it is a very interesting medical center with over 21 hospitals, 8 research institutions, and all other different numbers of medical schools and dental schools within the radius of 1 mile, right? And so it's very interesting to just looking at this picture by itself by asking the question, well, how could one hospital situated in such a competitive environment decide what is the strategy move forward, right? Should the hospital try to mimic others, or should the hospital try to differentiate service offering a little bit so that they can gain a little bit more competitive advantages? So that actually kind of relate back to the two questions that I talked about at the beginning. First one is, what can hospitals do internally from operation standpoint of view to improve cost efficiency, considering that cost associated with healthcare right now is around 18% of GDP for United States. And specifically, internally, we're looking at how they can distribute the resources across different service lines, and we call it the service mix. And then externally, when there are specific competition in the market, and how could they also adjust the service mix specifically? And in this case, we are looking at the effectiveness of differentiation. And that is one of the specific strategy we are looking at in this paper. So the data we're getting, as you can see from here, is quite comprehensive, and it covers over 52,000 hospitals, records for over 3,000 unique hospitals between the year of 1996 and 2013. And we run a couple of different econometric models and control for heterogeneity and other potential issues. And eventually, we have 3 major highlights I want to discuss. The first one is relationship between specialization and cost efficiencies. And I draw on the prior publication in organizational learning and looking at the difference between exploitation and exploration. The reason being for me to apply this concept is because one of the benefits for using specialization is to drive patient's volume over to those areas that's being highlighted in the specialized area. So through the cumulative increase in number of patient volume, hospital might be able to get better volume, induce the learning outcome from that process. And that is part of the exploitation process in the learning, where hospital explore the resource distribution, reduce the waste, and improve the cost efficiency. However, as time going by, and hospital should also consider the option of exploration, because there's always a new technology coming into place. There's also something new process to perform in order to getting better outcomes. And in this scenario, we use the example of open heart surgery versus minimal invasive heart surgery, where this is one of the good examples, because as a hospital accumulate a lot of experience with open heart surgery, all of a sudden when they are facing the new technology where no open heart is needed, no open chest is needed, where the small incision is being made and surgeons are performing procedure with the guide of a robot and a camera, and all of a sudden the prior experience do not apply. And in these scenarios, it might have a disruption in the learning process. As a result, we propose that there's a potential curvilinear relationship between specialization and cost efficiency. And keep in mind that our data is panel structured. And so what we're looking at is within group comparison, looking at how the change in hospitals specialization in the x-axis is going to drive the change in the operating expenses per patient day, which is what we use to measure cost efficiency on the y-axis. So what we found in the data in the model essentially is a hospital starting to initially develop specialization. It support that through the exploitation processes, they can actually reduce operating expenses over time. However, up to a certain point, the further the develop specialization, they're going to incur additional cost, which could be a result of exploitation. And what is most important part is really to find the turning point, or what we call the sweet spot. And the curvilinear relationship is important for practitioners as well for researchers, is because we have the empirical evidence supporting that the specialization is not a silver bullet. And for hospital alike, they need to analyze the internal process as well the resource availability, try to identify what is the best sweet spot they need to develop in terms of the level of specialization. And so our second highlight is the relationship between the differentiation and cost efficiency. And so in this specific area, we play the simplified game theory for two hospitals serving the same region, where we play this as two-stage. One is hospital A make a decision, and hospital B is trying to come up with a response. Right, and first scenario, hospital A decides not to differentiate and evenly distribute resource across different service line. And B could do the same thing or try to develop its own specialty. And the second scenario is that A decides to develop the specialization in the first place. And B can respond by not doing anything or trying to develop specialties in different clinical units, right? And so through this simplified game, and we found that, both hospital A and B are better off by differentiating the service from the other competitors. And we also found empirical support from our data analysis. And the third highlight is with a special case when there is a specialty hospital in the region. And the previous example we are demonstrated based on the assumption of they are all general acute care hospitals, but there are also over a few hundreds of specialty hospitals in the States. And we come up with a simplified play game as a previous slide as well. Assuming there is a specialized hospital as specialized heart vascular surgery, and when it's in the market, general acute care hospital G can do three different actions, right? Try to avoid competition by taking out the heart vascular surgery from its service offerings, or develop a specialty in urology, or develop a specialty specifically in heart vascular surgery in competition with the specialty hospitals. And what we found is, very intuitively, we thought that option A might be better for this general acute hospitals, right? Because there's already a specialty hospital in the region. Why bother offering same services? But from the data analysis, we found is actually quite the opposite. The third option is actually serve them the best. Reason being is, first of all, there's a effect we call the opinion leader, where there's always a lot of transfer between specialty hospital and acute care hospital through all different type of workshops or webinars nowadays, or conferences at the local or regional level. And also, specialty surgeons oftentimes self-select themselves during the matching process, choose areas that the specialty are most practiced. And lastly, also area with specialty hospital oftentimes have quite a lot of supplies or extensive ability of supporting service, such as cath labs or cardiac surgeons, so on and so forth. So with that being said, that's why we found that the third option, generally speaking, might work better for general acute hospital. And we also found anecdotal evidence, especially in Texas Medical Center, where the MD Anderson Cancer Center is situated. Other general acute hospitals, such as Baylor, St. Luke's Medical Center, are also trying to develop new treatment plans for triple-negative breast cancer and estrogen receptor positive diseases. All right, and so that is pretty much the highlight of the three major findings in our research publication. And in terms of the research opportunities for future, we figured that the internal operation strategy, generally speaking, cannot be isolated from external market. And along this line, there's 3 specific questions that could be answered by future researchers. So first one is, should operation strategy follow the direction set by marketing functions? What means is that could the operation strategy only be a response to whatever market competition direct us to? And second one is, could self-selected operation decisions drive marketing strategy? And last one is, what might be the best practice for organizations to consider when there's external market competition or the market competition changes over time? All right, so that is my quick summary for this paper, and thank you. And I welcome any questions, also suggestions, and also some potential research collaborations in the future.